Welcome to Smash Fiction, the podcast where we pit two or more nerd icons against one another in a battle of strength, or wits, or the power of motherfucking friendship, and see who would win. This week, Stitch versus Toothless. Hello? Get me the head of kids programming. Yes, now. God damn it, I don't care how many prostitutes he's with. Do you know who I am? This is Avarice J. Blunderhack himself. This is my network, and I want the head of kids fucking programming on the phone right this shit-stained second. Yes, I'll hold. Hello? Save it. I don't give a rat's ass what your name is. Listen, we're canceling Bolt. The replacements for the dog and the little girl aren't working out. Ratings are down across the board. Shut up, there's no use whining about it. You're the fucking asshole who lost $1 billion canine because a plot ripped off from fucking Toy Story happened in real life. Bolt is over. Done. Finite. We need a new hit show starring an adorable child and an even more goddamn adorable pet, and we need it pronto. Now, did you get the memo I sent over this morning? Uh-huh. Take your bizarre sexual excuses to someone who cares. You ignore another memo of mine and you're fired. If you bother to exercise what little literacy you possess, you'll see that we already have 2 new candidates lined up. What? How the hell am I supposed to know what a Stitch is? It's some fucking Hawaiian thing. The point is it's furry and cute and a weird color. And its owner is a little ethnic girl. Do you need me to spell out the fucking formula for you? Jesus H. Christ, how long have you been working here? Huh? I hope you look back on that time with fondness because I'm betting you won't be around much longer. Now, the other one. Yes, you read that right. Yes, it's a dragon. No, not a real dragon, you idiot, but it looks enough like a dragon that nobody will give a wet shit. The kid's got a great story, too. Calls it Toothless. Says they were trapped in ice for hundreds of years. Something about a war between the Burks and the Arendelles. I don't fucking know. I don't run the gangs anymore. I don't know what stupid crap they're calling themselves now. Look, both the kids need the money, so it's the dragon or the Hawaiian whatever. Which one do you... What's that? Make it a contest. Fight it out? That has potential. Maybe you'll keep your job another week after all. Yeah, we could clear out the backlot, 3-camera setup, hire some Malkaran to do a voiceover. The Battle of the Behemoths, pet shop pugilism, hard hits for high stakes. Yeah, we knocked fucking Vince McMahon right off the air. I like the sound of that. What? Sure, yeah, bring in the kids. Let them coach from the sidelines. Should be good for a laugh. Leave whatever stuff you want lying around the lot, too. Gives it an edge. But for God's sakes, don't let them kill each other. Last thing I need is fucking PETA up my ass again. And get to work on the ad campaign. Stitch. Toothless. Which lovable but terrifying monster with a heart of gold will earn a life of ease and luxury on the greatest television network of all time? Oh, and bring in that Miles Schneiderman asshole to judge the damn thing. He's been interning here for enough decades. Might as well give the poor son of a bitch something to do.
So, to all of those children out there that just searched iTunes for Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon, welcome to our totally appropriate...
Hey, there is totally a rating on this podcast. Representing Toothless are Colin Mulcairn.
You just gestured at all of me.
And Dan Mulcairn.
Okay, so... point of rules clarification. If we just make a lot of dragon references but no dungeon references, is that like half a shot each? How are we doing this?
Full shots, buddy. Full shots.
All right, well, line them up.
And arguing for Stitch. Once again returning to Smash Fiction, it is the indubitable gameable duo of Chris Newton.
You sit there and you thump your dragon manual and you practice your dragon calls and it didn't get you anywhere. Talk about your hideous Zippleback. Talk about Night Furies. Well, Experiment 626 says, Miga Nalaquista.
Oh, do we have to censor that? I mean,
can we bleep
wow.
that, please?
Jeez.
Seriously.
I didn't think you guys would be bringing the racial slurs in.
You guys really, really need to stop swearing. And Katrina Ernman Newton.
Aloha. Say hello to Experiment 62 Stitch, and goodbye to your chances of victory.
To determine who goes first, I would like to know the name of the only animated feature film besides How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch that was co-written and co-directed by Chris Sanders.
Oh, man.
The Croods.
Very good.
Oh, nice job. Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
All right, Team Toothless will be going first in opening argument, so Team Toothless, Dracarys. Wait.
Nope, wrong
no,
one.
Sorry, wrong dragon. Dracarys.
Yep. Hang on, did you just say that with a Castilian accent? Is that what that was supposed to be?
No, it was supposed to be a lisp at the end because he's toothless. He's
okay.
Toothless.
Dracarys.
All right. I got you.
Dude, Dracarys.
All right. So, at the start of the first How to Train Your Dragon movie, we are introduced to the Vikings of Berk, who have dedicated hundreds of years and their entire civilization to studying and slaying dragons. They have a dragon manual, which contains the collected knowledge of all their generations of dragon hunting. Each dragon has an extensive entry in the manual. Each dragon, that is, except the Night Fury. The only advice the manual has if you encounter a Night Fury: hide and pray that it does not find you. Not only has no one ever killed a Night Fury, no one has ever even seen a Night Fury. This isn't because they don't show up and attack Vikings along with the other types of dragons, they absolutely do, but because they're so fast and smart that they're basically invisible. Hiccup says that they never steal food, they never show themselves, and they never miss. Toothless, if you haven't gathered by context at this point, is a Night Fury. Toothless's speed and maneuverability are just bananas, making him insanely hard to hit. There's a part where the final boss dragon from the first movie has his giant head inches behind Toothless and lets loose a pillar of fire roughly as big around as a semi, and Toothless still manages to dodge this attack multiple times at point-blank range. In the second movie, Toothless grows back spines, which grant him even greater maneuverability, meaning he can move and turn through the air with the grace of a hummingbird and the speed of a jet. We can talk about how Toothless is strong enough to carry multiple armored Vikings without losing speed or maneuverability, or how he's tough enough to fall hundreds of feet through a giant exploding dragon and land on a surface of rock and be fine, but let's be real. We're talking about a dragon, we're gonna talk about his breath weapon. Toothless's breath weapon is way more than just fire. It's directed explosive plasma bolts, which Toothless is able to direct with perfect precision and cause to detonate at very specific times and locations. It's accurate enough that in one scene, Hiccup is gliding ahead of Toothless in a gliding squirrel suit, and Toothless fires bolts that explode directly under Hiccup, creating thermals to raise up Hiccup without even singeing him. Seconds later, in the same scene, Toothless adjusts the power of his breath weapon and cuts a skyscraper-sized rock spire in half with just a single bolt. We see that this attack can instantly destroy siege weapons and entire battlements, and it can take down even the most powerful of opponents. Precision, power, control, max points in all three categories. Furthermore, we see that in the second film, Toothless is capable of entering alpha mode, in which his power goes through the roof and his breath weapon becomes effectively unlimited. Consider that the only reason Hiccup is able to take down Toothless in the first place is because he's the only one of the Vikings who takes the time to stop and think, to try to understand the dragon. The reason he does what the Vikings can't is because the Vikings go at the dragon with force and strength, looking to overpower them. Exactly the same sort of strategy that we see Stitch take time and time again. The whole point of the How to Train Your Dragon series is that the dragons can't be defeated by brute force. The Vikings in the first movie, Drago Bloodfist in the second movie, the endless parade of physically strong idiots in the show, all of them try to win with pure strength, and all of them lose. Not just to dragons in general, but to Toothless in particular. In going up against Stitch, Toothless is up against yet another predictable tank who thinks he can punch his way to victory. In other words, Toothless will be perfectly in his element.
Just one last point that Dan didn't mention, just saying it because I love it so much. The Manual of Dragons that Dan referred to earlier calls Night Furies the unholy union of lightning and death itself. That's just awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Great,
so
sober quiet.
Isn't this a kid's movie?
All right, so we both got kind of OP characters this time. We both got a lot of strengths and a few notable weaknesses. So how do we proceed? Well, we got to look at our respective character strengths and weaknesses and see how they line up with what's being asked of them in the given scenario. And unfortunately for Stitch, in this matchup, he's not going to be able to use any of his strengths to their fullest potential. And those few little weaknesses that he has are going to start mattering a whole hell of a lot. So Stitch is strong, but that doesn't matter for this matchup because Toothless is never going to get within the reach of that blue abomination's stubby little claws. Stitch is really good in melee combat, so he's going to try to get in close to Toothless. Toothless, on the other hand, is really good in ranged combat, so he's going to try to keep a fair amount of distance between himself and Stitch. So who between the two of them will get to dictate what the positioning will be in this fight? The answer is the combatant with the greater speed and maneuverability, and for all his strength and power, Stitch is never seen being particularly fast. Unlike Toothless, who is seen, doing all that stuff that Dan mentioned earlier. I have a bit here about his ability to, pitch and roll and yaw. Do you guys want to hear that?
No.
Never.
Fuck off.
All right, fine. So that brings us to durability. Stitch is pretty much indestructible, meaning that he is very difficult to kill, but that doesn't matter for this matchup because Toothless is not trying to kill him. And despite Stitch's indestructibility, we see that time and again he can still be stunned and knocked unconscious fairly easily. When Nani, an ordinary human, hits Stitch with a tree branch, he is knocked off his feet and stunned for a good 5 seconds. Okay, so that's a pretty weak attack, though. What about a stronger one? What type of attack is most likely to completely incapacitate Stitch? Well, when Jumba, Stitch's creator, is sent to Earth to capture him, he specifically requests a plasma gun, speculating that a direct hit from one might be able to stun Stitch. A later episode of the Lilo and Stitch TV series called Finder eventually confirms his hypothesis. In this episode, the nefarious Dr. Hamsterveal manages to shoot Stitch with a plasma gun, and Stitch is immediately rendered unconscious from a single hit. And what is it that Toothless breathes again? Oh, that's right. Plasma. Excellent. So yeah, Stitch is tough to kill, but not necessarily tough to knock out. Also, a side effect of his superhuman hearing, one of Stitch's biggest weaknesses is loud noises. And Toothless's plasma blasts are seen making enormous booming pressure waves whenever they hit something. So even if Toothless misses Stitch, the incredibly loud shockwave generated by his attack will definitely throw Stitch off balance for a while. And now let's talk mental game. Stitch has a brain like a supercomputer, but yet again we see that doesn't matter for this matchup because Stitch has an enormous weakness which time and again undercuts the effectiveness of his mind, which is that he is highly emotional and immature. After watching the animated series, I noticed that a decent chunk of the conflict in quite a few of the episodes is caused by Stitch himself being petty, impatient, and prideful. As an example, more than once in the series, Stitch lashes out at those around him due to feelings of jealousy caused by Lilo showing affection towards one of the other 625 experiments. We also see that tendency to act on feeling rather than logic in the film when he gets swarmed by admirers and flashing cameras on the beach when he's dressed as Elvis, and he reacts by going into a rage and attacking the crowd. After a long, drawn-out battle with Toothless, after trying again and again to hit our favorite Night Fury and continually failing, Stitch is gonna get frustrated and angry, and then it's only a matter of time before he makes a mistake. It doesn't matter how powerful of a computer you own if you've never bothered to turn it on, and Stitch has never even taken his supercomputer mind out of its box. So, despite all of his strengths, Stitch is just really ill-suited to this match. They brought a fighting type, and we brought a flyer. If Pokemon has taught us anything, there can be only one outcome here. Poor old 626. If I were the type to quote Alanis Morissette, I'd say that it's ironic. It's like 10,000 spoons when all he needs is a knife.
Oh.
How'd that feel, Miles? How'd that one feel going down?
You know, I was really getting into your guys' argument. I was thinking very well of Toothless in this fight until that. Regardless, strong opening arguments from Team Toothless. Team Stitch, time to toss around some dinosaurs.
Yeah!
Sorry, dragons. I mean dragons.
Dinosaurs too.
That would be fun.
Dinosaurs too.
This is studio backlot, correct? There are dinosaurs. Do we stipulate that there are dinosaurs?
I mean, sure. Okay. Spend a fate point, buddy.
Exhibit A, Your Honor. That's the sound Stitch makes when he gets hit. That is the sound of Stitch giving no fucks. And that will be the sound of this battle. Stitch outclasses Toothless in many ways, but fundamentally, his weird little body is just going to be too much for Toothless. Stitch can lift 3,000 times his own weight. So how much is that? Well, Stitch is 3 foot tall and superhumanly dense. The average 3 foot tall humanoid weighs about 30 pounds according to real life science, or 35 pounds according to Pathfinder, which is like science, only more complicated. If Stitch weighs 40 pounds conservatively, he can lift 60 tons. You know what's under 60 tons and fun to throw at a dragon? Almost everything. Stitch is quick and elusive too. In a 14-year-old franchise where most bad guys use plasma weapons, we've only seen a plasma bolt hit Stitch once. Congratulations to Colin for finding that. And look, he was sneaking up to reach into a hamster cage, and the hamster turned out to have a shoulder-mounted plasma cannon. That's some surprising shit. If he missed one dodge roll without shame, that's the one. Speaking of hitting Stitch, don't bother. We've never seen physical trauma come close to injuring him. Even massive damage stuns him at best. When a plasma explosion destroyed Lilo's entire house with Stitch at ground zero, Stitch got up and walked away a minute or two later. Once or twice, as pointed out, physical damage has put Stitch down for a matter of hours. But here's an example from the first film of what that takes. Stitch escaped space prison in a running gunfight, stole a spaceship, was hit in a dogfight, withstood fiery re-entry as his vessel crashed into the fucking Earth, then walked out of the crater and was hit by 3 successive 10-wheel trucks. That took one night to sleep off. And it was nighttime anyway, so I submit it might have just been bedtime. Either way, allow me to sum up Toothless's chances of KOing Stitch. Wait for it.
Yay!
Yep, saw that one coming.
So Stitch has a huge physical advantage, but obviously character generation in the Disney universe is unbalanced as shit because he's also got a brain like a supercomputer. It's easy to misunderstand Stitch's intellect, as we've heard our opponents do. He seems a little sloppy, he talks like Pootie Tang, but he consistently dodges plasma bolts and exploits his opponent's vulnerability.
Wow, I'm sorry, I just need to stop you there for a second, Chris.
Just gonna take a deep cut break? All right.
Because because we had an Alanis Morissette ironic reference that I was really unsure about. But now you've one-upped that with a Pootie Tang reference, which is something that I was very happy to have forgotten ever existed.
Have you forgotten that the last time this man was on the podcast, he referenced Hoppy the Marvel Bunny?
It's true.
I'm slowly
It's a fair
assembling my own League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
So wait, Alanis Morissette, Pootie Tang, and Hoppy the Marvel
Hoppy
Bunny?
the Wonder Bunny. Yeah.
That's a team.
That's pretty good.
The playing field is officially even now. Continue, please.
Okay. Stitch consistently dodges plasma bolts. He knows they can hurt him and exploits vulnerability. So he's not dumb or reckless. He's curious in combat. And that's the secret. Stitch is a weaponized baby. And if you have even a beaker full of mad science in your cold heart, you realize how amazing that is. Imagine the learning capacity and adaptiveness of an infant, plus the intellect of an adult and the reaction time of a supercomputer. That's why Stitch never takes a straight line to defeat his opponents. He pokes them, enrages them, puts them in his mouth, figures out what they're about. Then he finds unexpected ways to ruin their lives, just like a real baby. And as Katrina will discuss, Toothless is a veritable Kinder Egg full of exotic allergies and soft spots for Stitch to exploit. Finally, Stitch's craftiness extends beyond straightforward violence. Within days of landing on Earth, Stitch begins to speak English and completes a full Guerrero. He lies, he cheats, he steals.
Oh, nice.
He's capable of cons and dirty tricks like hiding bombs in toys that Toothless cannot handle. What we have here is the genius of chaos who escaped the Galactic Federation using only his saliva versus a dopey flying puppy who would definitely fall for the pretend to throw the ball trick. What follows will be the most adorable curb stomp in the history of televised pet combat.
As Kris alluded to, while Toothless and the other dragons of Berk are far from mindless winged death monsters, they aren't exactly evil geniuses either. Toothless and the other dragons are animal intelligences. They're loyal, they're able to cooperate, they've got good instincts, but they're not strong improvisers, and they lack the human ruthlessness it takes to succeed in Hollywood. Furthermore, as far as animals go, dragons are not as robust as they appear. It's established that almost all dragons, the exception being Skuldrons, are in fact vulnerable to a fictional plant called blue oleander. This fictional plant appears to be an artistic reimagining of
Good thing it's fictional. We're safe then, right?
Allow me to clarify how unsafe you are.
What's the name of this podcast again?
It's a
Smash real stuff. Real stuff
Smash
that
real
exists.
stuff. Yes.
So that's my everyday life.
Well, this is an artist smashing up your textbook oleander flower with the coloring of the Gentiana verna verapontica, or spring gentian, which is very abundant. It has 5 petals, a lobe central corolla, is pretty much an oleander flower, but blue and pretty. This botanical tangent is relevant because along with this flower's reality, reptiles, along with almost all other chordates, are also vulnerable to oleander toxicity. Do you know what's planted along miles and miles of California freeways? Oleander. Lots of it. Trader Johan brings one frickin' blue oleander shrub to Berk, and all of the dragons on that island get sick. Toothless is not benefiting from the landscape, is all I'm saying. Given the reality of this toxin, it isn't much of a leap to consider the other toxins to reptiles that are also toxic to dragons and abundant in California. This is a selection from Reptile Magazine's list of plants, some in part, some in entirety, that are toxic to reptiles and abundant in California. Hashtag Dan list. Amaryllis, avocados, azalea, bird of paradise, calla lilies, eggplants, figs, holly, hydrangea, iris, all ivies, jack in the pulpit, daffodils, jonquils, juniper, lupins, oak trees, peach trees, pear trees, plum trees, everything that's named starts with poison, including ivy, oak, and sumac, potato plants, tomato plants, red maples, rhododendrons, rhubarb, sage, snowdrop, sweet peas, tulips, wisteria, yew trees, and finally, the true California gold, citrus fruits.
Oh, I knew we
lay it down.
I knew we were playing with fire, bringing a botanist on the show.
Dangerous, toxic citrus fruits? This means guacamole with fresh lemon is double the doom. If you think 1 minute that Stitch will not throw delicious oranges for Toothless to adorably chomp and immediately regret, you are not paying attention. On offense, Toothless has exactly one kind of shot, and it's a pretty good shot. It's plasma bolts. But these shots are most likely operating like plasma cutters for metalwork, with a charged jet of gas burning very hot, propelled forward, and then exploding. Their maximum destructive power appears to be like ice crystal smashing, wooden catapult knocking over levels, no more than, say, a house-destroying plasma explosion, and certainly no hotter than atmospheric re-entry temperature. And this assumes shots will hit, which they won't. Toothless is the best dragon-sized riding puppy a boy could have, but up against the chaos-sowing, super-fast, super-strong, and super-smart alien force that is Stitch, he just doesn't have a chance.
Oh, man, I am kind of dying. It is
Must have had some blue oleander.
must have. Fantastic opening arguments from both sides. It is now time for rebuttals, and we will toss it back to Team Toothless for this one. Stitch is certainly throwing everything that moves, but Team Toothless, I believe dragons fly. So go.
They sure do. And that makes it awfully hard to hit Toothless when, you can wave your stubby little arms and throw anything you want at him, but Toothless has evaded a good number of much faster opponents who were able to attack him from much closer. If Stitch manages to land a single hit this entire fight, I would be extremely surprised.
Well, that's surprising because Toothless has a long history of getting hit by losers like Hiccup, whereas, as we mentioned, Stitch, people have been shooting plasma bolts at Stitch for 14 years, and they only hit once on a sneak attack. Their track records in evasion, speed aside, and that's because Toothless can't think as fast as he can fly. He's supersonic on a dive, but you can hit him in a dive because it's predictable. It's what Night Furies do.
That's you can catch him with a net.
Oh, catching people in nets. Are we talking about catching people in nets here? Because, he's so good at evading projectiles. Captain Gantu sneaks up on Stitch and shoots him with a net gun. Yeah, Captain Gantu is 20 feet tall and shakes the ground when he walks. So how good is Stitch's ability to sense ambushes?
If Stitch were up against, a captain of the Galactic Federation, then that would be a consideration. But he's up against the Night Fury, whose primary stealth tactic is his coloration, which is irrelevant because Stitch has infrared vision. He's not going to have an issue.
I would argue that a bigger issue is how incredibly fast Toothless can fly, and the fact that he can move in 3 dimensions. We're in a backlot here. There's plenty of places for Toothless to fly around, hide, get up on a nice high position away from Stitch's line of sight, and then it's Plasma Bolt City, and Stitch is down for the count.
But the idea of Toothless fighting in that way is not supported, and it's a key thing. Toothless has been trained. That's why he can break his shot limit all the time. We know that shot limit is 6. Hiccup says so. Toothless has been trained to tone it back so he gets more shots. In the same way, he's been trained how to fight. And it's not by sitting up like a freaky gargoyle and, waiting for somebody to come into view. That's just not how he operates. And even if he did, I think Stitch would spot.
All right, the person who's shooting at him throughout all of that first movie is Jumba, a pudgy scientist dude. I don't think that comparing that to Toothless, who, as they say, quote, never misses. Stitch doesn't get hit. Toothless never misses. I think that's kind of becomes a wash at that point. And then there comes the bit where basically if Toothless fires one shot, you get the shockwave, you get the loud noise. Stitch gets a little disoriented, like when all those camera flashes were going off in his eyes, and then he's not able to dodge so well. In the second shot, that one does hit him.
I'm not so sure about this loud noises thing, because in Leroy and Stitch, they improvise a giant, crazy rock concert that is very, very loud, and Stitch totally handles it. I think that this may have been an early Earth Days thing for Stitch that he's overcome.
Yeah, whereas we've never heard word that Toothless has overcome the natural dragon issue where your equilibrium is disrupted by clanging noises near you. And if you don't think Stitch can produce some clanging noises, return to remedial Stitch viewing.
Well, here's eels.
If Stitch manages to put together from bizarre context clues that Toothless is afraid of eels, then good on him. But more to the point, not every dragon we see in How to Train Your Dragon works the same way, and not all of them have the same weakness. We see that a number of dragons are weak against, loud clanging noises, but not every dragon shares the same traits. And Hiccup himself says in the movie, everything we thought we know about you is wrong. We never really see whether or not Toothless is vulnerable to loud clanging noises, and given the noise that, the sonic booms that he makes when he flies, or the sonic booms that his exploding projectiles makes when he shoots them, I kind of feel like that's maybe not an issue for him.
Yeah, I think it was more the Gronkle specifically, but...
Stitch has his pick of weaknesses. As we mentioned, he has a ton, and probably anything that hurts a regular reptile based on the evidence of the show, especially like episode by episode, things just keep happening to Toothless. Stitch has his pick, and you know what? The whole Lilo and Stitch series is about finding the unique weaknesses of a unique monster every week and exploiting them to beat them.
When Toothless swallows something he doesn't like, we see that he is able to cough it right back up with no problem at all, like when he eats those fish heads that he then wants to feed to Hiccup. So,
you guys keep talking about how Stitch is somehow going to manage to put together the poisonous plants that Toothless is vulnerable to. But the thing is, that requires higher level reasoning. We see that when Stitch gets angry, like when there's something flying out of his reach that keeps avoiding his thrown objects and hitting him with lightning bolts, that's going to get him angry, and he's not going to be capable of that higher level of thinking. Even if he knows what he's supposed to do, he won't do it. Like, Colin mentioned that scene in the first movie when Stitch is on the beach, a bunch of people are taking pictures of him, he gets angry and, like, destroys the beach. Keep in mind that right before that scene, Mr. Bubbles had come to Lilo's house and said, he needs to behave like a model citizen, or I'm going to take you away from your family. Stitch knew what the stakes of that were. He knew what the consequences would be, but he lost his ability to use his judgment when he got angry.
All right. Good rebuttals. Team Toothless definitely holding their own here, but it looks like they have a lot to learn about Ohana. Team Stitch, care to teach them?
You know what? It's funny you mention that, because this is a franchise that is an arc. That's the thing, Lilo and Stitch. And it is an arc toward Stitch overcoming the emotional immaturity you're talking about. And by citing just the first film in that way, you're targeting an earlier version of Stitch. That's the main part maybe of your opening that I want to take issue with, because it is a weakness of Stitch that he spends the whole franchise addressing. And by like the time of Leroy and Stitch, I mean, the Galactic Federation, who started out with Stitch imprisoned, they turned him into a captain because he has overcome those emotional issues.
Was it a space prison?
It was a space prison.
Okay, just making sure. Point of order.
But yeah, so that I think is going to be a non-factor, especially when you consider Toothless. Now, Toothless, I mean, I guess you could call it emotional maturity, like the loyalty of a flying dog and his boy. But the reality is, neither an intelligence nor an emotional maturity is Toothless at human level. I think he's going to be easily fooled by the kind of stuff that Stitch can do. I mean, honestly, I think all it might take is like some fish with bombs in them. I think that would do it.
Or, let's take the friendly route, because Stitch likes to make friends. Stitch is, aware of celebrity. He knows who Elvis was. He has had Elvis training. And I think
Elvis
that yeah.
It's on his character sheet under skills, Elvis training.
And I can fully imagine Stitch just clambering up onto this adorable dragon and realizing, if you scratch him under his chin, he rolls over. This is the best.
Oh yeah, yet another weakness. That point you touch and he goes unconscious.
Which is a thing. Why do dragons have a KO point? I don't know.
Or Stitch gets in his blind spot, another weakness.
True. But
again,
I think
stubby little arms versus dragon who can fly at like supersonic speeds.
I think
it doesn't matter.
Just run up a building and jump onto him, and that would be really fun. That would be the kind of thing that Stitch lives for. Run up a building and jump on a flying object. I have seen Stitch do that.
The problem with jumping versus flying is that with one thing you can adjust your course midway through. With the other one, you're kind of stuck. So if you're trying to hit something in midair and it suddenly moves out of the way, you're kind of out of luck.
He's able to jump onto Gantu's spaceship, but that's like, if you want to talk about the difference in size between a little tiny dragon and a ship that can hold Gantu, who is, as we established, like 20 feet tall, and then the ship's a good deal larger than that, so I don't know.
Stitch has fought many flying opponents, both experiments, he's fought spaceships. I mean, he's got impeccable aim. I mean, consider the way that he dropped from that spaceship onto that other spaceship, calculating the trajectory. Again, supercomputer for a brain. He has no issue with this whatsoever. Space combat, air combat, he's done it a million times. And the thing I'm concerned about is that this is going to turn into one of those situations like it's a wash. Like, okay, Toothless is fast and Stitch is strong. But the thing is, those two things don't cancel. Now, it's true that Toothless can try to keep away, but really, all Stitch has to do is take cover. Those plasma bolts, I mean, they're okay. Like, they can take out a structure, but they're not the kind of damage that puts Stitch out for long. Typically, that kind of damage, at best, knocks him on his ass and he gets up. So the keep away game really won't work. And shooting anything strong enough to really affect Stitch, like that like top level, like house destroying, catapult destroying level, Toothless gets like 6 of those. And so if he can hit with one of those 6, then great. But all the while he's got to avoid a little blue Hawaiian whatever, catapulting himself up, riding explosions up to him, tricking him to land, commandeering flying vehicles. There could be helicopters there that he can get in. Stitch has so many options. And the thing is, he gets to try all of them because Toothless's attacks won't hurt him. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Also, this ignores option ukulele, which is, if Stitch gets his hand on a ukulele and just jams out, we have established that dragons, they don't appreciate music. We have seen what happens when Toothless encounters humans singing and dancing. He makes a face like your cat makes when you're doing something dumb and goes bleh and wanders off. not good ratings when the dragon says bleh or vomits fish heads or oranges. I think this is going to go well for him.
Okay.
The famed ukulele defense. Interesting.
It's a risky maneuver, but it worked before. Here's the thing. As I mentioned in my opening, Toothless's breath weapon cuts a giant rock spire in half in a single hit. If you were to drive those 3 trucks that ran over Stitch in the first movie into that rock spire, they would not be able to knock it over. Like that
was the cherry on top of his pain sundae, my friend. He just crashed to Earth from space. He survived re-entry and collision into Earth. The trucks just like topped it off.
He got up from that and he was walking around just fine and like, shooting at frogs with laser guns before he got hit by those semis. I don't know. Are we saying this is a system with HP and he was like down to like 3 or 4 at that point and then...
Oh, nice.
But it doesn't matter.
We've seen Stitch crash to Earth another time. At the beginning of the anime, when Stitch first hits Japan, when he crashes that time, likewise, he gets up and starts walking around, but he's very hungry. We see multiple times that Stitch has this kind of power level built into him. We see this in like Stitch Has a Glitch, that second movie. So yeah, basically, figuratively, it is 1 HP left. It is his power levels are low. And Stitch can keep operating at that level for a long time without any impairment. You have to do serious, serious damage. I mean, we get straight from his inventor. Stitch is nigh indestructible. And so this hit and run stuff, I mean, if you want to fly around and shoot meaningless plasma bolts at us, go ahead. But if you want to get serious, you get 6 tries. And all of Stitch's guile and all of Stitch's strength, don't forget his ability to throw objects. I mean, we've seen things hit Toothless in the air before. Stitch has got great aim. He's able to spring ambushes, and he can throw so much, you guys.
You were talking about his ability to bounce back after a single night, after he gets injured. As far as I know, that's going to mean scenario's over if we get to that point,
You keep talking about how he has 6 bolts that he can do. That is categorically not true. I know that that's what it's listed as, and that's what they say it is in I think the TV show. I was watching that final boss fight at the end of How to Train Your Dragon 1. He uses 10 full power breath weapon shots in that fight, 7 of which he does basically in a row. So I don't know if maybe he does have 6 shots, but if he does, he recharges them super fast. Certainly well enough to empty out those charges multiple times within the same fight. He can stay in the air and just rain lightning down on Stitch basically all day.
Well, I'll actually give you the explanation for that. In the episode Frozen of the How to Train Your Dragon TV show, we see Hiccup specifically mention that Toothless is out of shots. But he's shot more than 6 times. He shot 14 or 15. The reason is because he was shooting at lesser targets, speed stingers, and using his lower power shots. Toothless has been trained not to hunt like a regular Night Fury, not to come streaking out of the air at supersonic speeds and hit something with everything he's got, but to hold back, weaken the plasma blast so he gets more. That's his habitual way of fighting. It's only when Hiccup specifically asks him to shoot full power blast that he does, or when he's out of control, as he was when he shot the eel. Yet another weakness. When he eats an eel, he goes crazy. And at that point, Hiccup specifically mentions the 6-shot limit. He feels comfortable approaching Toothless after he shot 6 times. Not only do I think he's only got 6 shots, I think he's only got 5, because he's going to keep trying to zap the apparently weak and tiny, albeit cute and fluffy Stitch, with weak plasma bolts until he hits him at least once and realizes that shit's not going to work. By that time, he's going to have 5 or fewer shots left.
But for the record, Kris said he's going to hit him. Kris said he's going to hit him. Sorry, that's all.
Kris, where's the frog?
I just want to get this in real quick because, again, we had to watch the anime. You've got your Titan Wing mode. Do you know that Stitch has a secret power cell in his body that allows him to charge up with the power of love and support and become immune to plasma? He does.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying a character in an anime has the ability to power up into a stronger form?
With the power of love?
Yes.
It is canonical and it is explained. It is one of his powers. It is not just the general power of anime. It is a thing built into Stitch, which makes sense because one of the other experiments can do it.
Oh my god. Okay.
Sorry, Miles. We didn't think this one was going to get Japanese on you, but somehow it happened.
As long as I could.
Oh, well, this is turning out to be one hell of a show. It's actually so good that the owner of the network, Avarice J. Blunderhack himself, has personally come down to watch. Impressed and finally convinced that Stitch is more than some kind of Hawaiian koala, and that Toothless is in fact a dragon, Blunderhack is prepared to offer a TV deal to both parties. However, just as Lilo and Hiccup are about to sign the contract, a freak bolt of lightning crashes down from the sky, heralding the lightning round. As it happens, the freak bolt of lightning in question has struck a nearby water tower, emblazoned with the logo of Blunderhack's corporation, Wasteful Billionaires Entertainment Incorporated. As the tower door splits apart, A look of abject terror comes over Blunderhack's face. "Oh no," he mutters, barely able to speak. "No, not again. Not them."
Oh no.
A moment later, the network backlot resembles the set of a big-budget disaster movie starring a massive tornado. Nobody is quite sure what happened, but as Lilo, Stitch, Hiccup, and Toothless come to their senses, they see a portly security guard race onto the scene, panting as he looks back and forth wildly, a cartoonishly proportioned net in his hand. Suddenly, from out of nowhere, 3 dark figures leap at him from the shadows, planting the guard with 3 massive kisses as the backlot resonates to the sound of a mighty "Hello, nurse!" And they're gone again. Oh, Blunderhack is furious. Ripping up the contracts he had just drawn, he informs Lilo and Hiccup that the only duo getting any TV deals around here will be the one that somehow manages to recapture and contain the Animaniacs, who have gathered their various friends and colleagues for a fun day at Universal Studios.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
Team Toothless went first in the opening round, so Team Stitch will go first in the lightning round.
This could not be better. Thank you, Miles, for not watching Lilo and Stitch the series, presumably, because
No problem.
If you had-
Anytime, buddy.
if you had watched it, you would know that every episode is about Stitch having to capture and somehow find a place for, contain the chaos of one of his fellow experiments. That is what he and Lilo do. And I think this is going to be no different. He's right in his element in a cartoony thing, right? Right, like from the anime to the series to the, especially the later movies, they're very cartoony. He can cope with this easily. He's indestructible like a cartoon. Whereas, like, think of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. If you start pulling that cartoon stuff on more realistic creatures, like Toothless is, people are going to get hurt. Whereas anything a cartoon can dish out, Stitch can pretty much take. I think he's not going to have a problem finding them, figuring out their distinctive weaknesses. He's this kind of like run around, wacky with stuff guy like they are. And I don't think the Animaniacs can really do. I mean, it's going to be a chase. It's going to be fun for sure.
100%. Also, we know for sure that Stitch is into popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
He is aware of things like Sherlock Holmes and Looney Tunes and all of the weirdness that is the world. And I think he is going to be in this to win this, along with Lilo, who has had the best time collecting 625 cousins to collect into her logbook and make friends with. This is what they do. This is what they are for. And this is going to be fun for them. Like, Distant Ohana from Hollywood, this is what we came here for. This sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, those Animaniacs got stuffed in a water tower somehow, right? Cartoon hijinks. And I think that laying this trap, like dressing up in a disguise that's going to lure them in, or, you know, sneaking into whatever this thing is that they set up, whatever their latest like game is that the Animaniacs are playing, Stitch is going to be able to do that.
Stitch would be a natural choice for the Jurassic Park ride at Universal. They could be the tour guide and the attraction and totally just like pounce them and get them into a Jeep kind of thing and then hide them in a different tower somewhere. This is totally doable.
Whereas Toothless, he's the worst thing you can be in the situation, which is a straight man, because he can't understand. I mean, he's cute, but in this cartoon, in the Toothless crossover cartoon with Animaniacs, Toothless is definitely getting like pies thrown in his face and making stink faces.
Well, that or Hiccup is, because, I mean, what's Hiccup? He's a Viking who was thawed recently?
Yeah.
What is he going to do? This is not what he is in the world for. He, normally is, like, by the end of that series, he's a chief. He, like, has responsibilities relating to sheep and ships and normal Viking stuff.
And he's got a certain degree of empathic ability, but that's all variations of one trick, which is the put your hand out and, empathize thing. Can you imagine that working on Wacko?
Or Dot. I mean, Dot might be into it, but I don't think it's going to capture her at all.
All right, Team Toothless. Lightning round. Animaniacs, go.
So there's a group of people, and they're plagued by a mysterious sort of mythological force. These creatures that appear out of the night and attack people and then vanish. And they don't understand them. No one here knows how to deal with them. And everyone has all these beliefs about them, but it turns out all of their beliefs and all of their methods that they do to try to capture these things, they never end up working. But who is able to overcome this? Well, this is basically the plot of How to Train Your Dragon, where everybody is like plagued by these dragons. They don't know how to deal with them. And then Hiccup is the only one who ignores the conventional wisdom and takes the time to get to know his target and understand it. And then he is able to pull off something that no one else has, which is the ability to capture and control the creatures that were thought to be uncapturable and uncontrollable.
I'm glad you brought up Hiccup, Colin, because that was something I was wanting to bring up in the main round but didn't get a chance to. Hiccup is really, really smart. And he's really good at looking at a situation, analyzing it, and finding the way into and through a problem that many people didn't see otherwise. And oftentimes that solution is through friendship. So I feel like, Hiccup is kind of, particularly in the TV show, he's a little bit of a world traveler. And I think that he would eagerly join in with Yakko's, around the world little song, United States, Canada, Mexico, etc.
Oh, yeah.
Jamaica, Brazil. All right.
And Wakko, as everyone knows, has a gigantic appetite. And we see that the dragons in How to Train Your Dragon are capable of grabbing huge quantities of food, which for them are usually like sheep and goats and occasionally like sharks. But, you can grab the entire buffet table from Golden Corral and just bring it straight on over to Wakko. As far as Dot goes, like...
That hair, man. Hiccup. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't know if that was where you're going, but that's where I'm going.
Well, okay. When it comes to Dot, so Dot is like smart and sassy. And if she goes over to Lilo, we've seen how Lilo reacts to other little girls who try to sass her, which is that she pounces on them and starts pounding on them. Whereas Hiccup, he's kind of like tall and lanky and, he can be kind of like clever and stuff. I think that Dot might end up getting a little bit of a crush on him. And like between Lilo and Hiccup, if one of them is going to have the patience to deal with a child for extended periods of time in order to get their friendship, Hiccup 100%. Toothless will just be her giant puppy now.
Could you imagine Lilo trying to train Toothless? It would not go well.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, excellent lightning round arguments. I have to go spin the wheel of morality before I can decide the results of this match, so I will be right back. Please talk amongst yourselves. Return to thinking back away from the yelling. Thank you.
How have we not done Animaniacs so far, man? That's a...
I don't understand it. No Animaniacs, no Looney Tunes, just a bunch of dumb Disney characters.
Ignoring one whole half of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Exactly.
Yeah, man, Animaniacs.
I mean, I assume you guys have that on the slate for a Gameable Saturday morning.
Well, the dibs list is a tightly guarded secret, but
of course.
Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely want to take a look at something in that vein. I will say, and I guess I'm giving away it's not on the list, but like Freakazoid, man, I want to do Freakazoid.
That was a Saturday morning cartoon, wasn't it?
We'll make it a Saturday morning. I mean, we had to do that with some other stuff. It was like we
went through all
these programming schedules of like, did this ever play at like 3:00 in the morning on a Saturday somewhere? If we want to do it, we'll find a way.
There's got to be some cartoons that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And those are going to be those weekday after school spots because that's when I actually watched cartoons.
Were you one of those people that would actually sleep in on Saturday mornings?
No, I was a very out and about kind of kid, proto-botany major. I was outside a lot on the weekends, like running around, playing outside.
Outside? Is that anything like inside? I'm familiar with inside,
No.
But I don't know what that other... Dude... I'm so scared going into this match. Like, you guys brought it so hard last time, and I knew you were going to bring it hard this time. I know you guys are so smart, and, like, you did not disappoint, man.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'll tell you, I think it's less intelligence than the fact that I did an irresponsible amount of preparation for this episode.
It sounds like, man.
Oh, yeah. Kris has been on it. I have been less on it because it's summer reading season at the library, and I was like, I don't have time to watch 6 movies and 14 episodes of various cartoons. Kris, I can't do this.
But that's why this is a partnership, this marriage. You go to work, I watch cartoons, everything works out.
I was curious to see if you guys would ever do How to Train Your Dragon for your podcast. I know it's a DreamWorks thing, but, you've done Shrek and stuff. Because I feel like, a movie franchise where all of the main characters have, like, a very specific set of skills and personalities, and they also have their own individual dragons. Like, that seems 100% role-playing game.
It's 100% gameable. I mean, spoilers, but if we ever talk about it, it's just going to be, you can do this, and here's how to do this, because it would be really fun.
Yeah, I honestly can't wait to do it, especially after revisiting it for this episode, it might be one that we get to sooner than later, just because like while all this information is still bubbling in my brain.
I was listening to Gameable, and you were mentioning, Chris, when you were going to be on Good Looks, Bad Books, that the horrible romance novel that you had to read, you read it 3 times, and it was filled with highlighter and stuff. And at that point, when I was listening to that episode, I was like, we are so screwed. That was what I was thinking when I heard that part of your podcast. So.
That's funny. It's always nice to hear that you've struck terror into a listener.
Right. I was like, he researched so hard.
Yeah. Well, this is our marriage. Chris doesn't have a driver's license. He takes the bus, and so he's able to read terrible books 3 times and learn everything about them. And it totally works out, I hear about these books, and it's like, yep, I'll never read that. I'll never recommend it to anybody. I won't buy it for my library. Thanks, Chris.
We forgot to mention that Stitch can grab and throw back plasma. Damn it.
Well, okay. I had
something written for that.
I had something written for that too. So.
Okay, let's hear it.
So first of all, the plasma that we see in Lilo and Stitch doesn't explode the way that that it does in How to Train Your Dragon. So like if Stitch tried to grab it, it would probably just blow up in his hands. But like the other thing about the plasma in Lilo and Stitch is there's the one scene in the first movie where the mad scientist guy, whose name escapes me at this very second, Jumba, corners Stitch in Lilo's house, and he shoots the plasma blast at Stitch. And basically like we get to see Stitch, Jumba, and this record player all get hit by the plasma bolts sort of like in a row. It has the force of someone kind of shoving you. Stitch kind of gets
like a tennis ball, basically.
Yeah, like, well, Stitch gets knocked over, Jumba gets knocked over, and the record player like kind of shakes a bit enough that the needle falls down and starts playing Elvis, but like the record player isn't even damaged. The next scene is basically when Nani hits Stitch with a stick, and you see Stitch go flying, and he's like stunned for several seconds. So like the plasma in Lilo and Stitch is canonically less powerful than a woman with a stick.
Well, that was after, the plasma gun was overloaded and blew up the house.
It is like relatively weak sauce plasma. But the other thing about Stitch though is, and I actually kind of like this, like he's strong, but he's light. And so I like the fact it actually makes the combats more dynamic. He's not like this total brick. He's very durable, but somebody much less strong than him can whack him with something and he goes flying, because that's how weight works. Like that's how force works. It was a little detail I didn't notice until I was doing the research for this episode, but it's really cool.
I always wondered.
Come up with would be fun is the fact that he can roll himself into a ball. Oh, hey, Miles.
That is fun.
Oh,
yes,
we got so much more. All right, go away, Miles. We got like another.
I'm like super impressed that you guys are still making arguments.
We're doing
I've been staying quiet for the last like 2 minutes, just listening to you guys keep going.
I had so many notes for this one, Miles.
Yeah.
So many notes.
Oh god. Hey, do you want to know exactly how much a hideous Zippleback weighs? 6,036 pounds.
Great. You planning on throwing some of those at us?
If we had any.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Moral number 10. And the moral of today's story is... never drink 90 proof whiskey when Gameable is on the show and everybody is making shit tons of RPG references. That's good advice. That's very good advice. There were lots of factors going into this one. I think Gameable did an excellent job of pointing out Stitch's toughness and just the fact that it's really hard to hit him, and when you do hit him, it doesn't really do all that much. On the other hand, that breath weapon, dude, seriously?
Yeah.
That's some bullshit. that's fucking badass, man. That plasma, exploding plasma that he can direct, it's like heat-seeking plasma. It's ridiculous. So that's one of the factors that I was taking into account. Another factor is I have to admit to a little bit of bias on my part. Last time Gameable was on the show, they kind of trounced the Smash Fiction advocates, and I was really kind of rooting for our guys to kind of come back.
Home team.
Yeah, and, to make a better showing, and you definitely did. I think that, Colin, you were excellent on the X-Files show. Myself, possibly not so much. But you guys did a fantastic job. But honestly, what I think the deciding factor is, guys, Kris and Katrina kind of out-Smash Fictioned you. They had a Dan list. They had lots of great jokes. They had the RPG references down.
We learned it from watching you, Dan.
In the end, given the quality of the arguments presented, I have to give this one to Stitch.
Wow, all right.
Well, okay, first of all, we have to get one of those for League, obviously.
Yeah,
man.
right?
Whenever
well.
Stitch takes damage.
If I had to lose to anyone, I'm glad it was you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was
Well done, you guys.
Well thought.
seriously hoping to vote against you this time, but I just couldn't do
But
it.
that
It
would
was
mean you'd
good.
have to vote for Dan. So, I mean, like, how do you...
Okay, can we
It's-
talk
it's
for a
true.
second? I have lost the last, 7 in a row. I don't know what you guys are talking about. The last one I won was Carmen versus Waldo. That was back in, April.
I haven't mentioned it in forever.
But you've had long winning streaks too. You're the Chen Kenichi of this podcast.
Miles, be honest, it was the wrestling references, wasn't it?
It was totally the wrestling references, you guys.
As soon as he said Eddie Guerrero, I was like, oh, damn it.
That was the deciding factor. Like I said, when it comes to Gameable is an excellent show when it comes to not yelling and actually thinking, but when it's time to yell, you guys, Kris and Katrina, you can yell with the best of them. So,
Coming from you guys, that means a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
congratulations on the victory. Thank you so much for coming on once again.
Yes.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Just, I can't even say how much I was laughing when you guys were doing your arguments.
Do you guys have anything in particular you want to plug? I know you have a Gameable Saturday morning coming up.
Yeah, I think just the Gameable Podcast, the Gameable family of podcasts. You can find us at gameabledisneypodcast.tumblr.com, and you just go from there. You can also follow us on Twitter at Gameable Podcast if you want to keep up on that. We talk about Disney movies, Pixar movies, Saturday morning cartoons, all that stuff from a role-playing perspective. And if we've alienated your listeners by talking about pro wrestling,
Hey,
Be forewarned.
Then the ones that remain will feel right at home.
I'm Kit. I was here the whole time. Now I make thank yous. All right. So for Tumblr, thank you, Roz Scott, for reblogging the Danny Mordor. And over to the Twitter sphere. Zane Weber has been retweeting a lot of stuff. Thank you so much. Paladin Day, as always, tweeting at us lots and lots. I can't read them all, but he's awesome. I think he said he cried from laughter during Catwoman and Black Cat. So please don't drive while you're listening to us if we make you. Sam Akondo retweeted a bunch of stuff. Thank you for being super supportive and helpful. Thomas Durfee also retweeted some stuff, said he would like to listen to more episodes that were like the Malcolm Reynolds and Han Solo match, since we said we could do multiple episodes on them alone.
Like I said, next one's just going to be their hair. Then it's going to be jacket.
Oh man, I have to go on Mal for that one. Anyway.
Episode 8, Tightness of Pants.
that's right.
Eric Meyer? Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name.
Oh, Eric Meyer, huh? What did he say?
He retweeted your Kefka Sephiroth tweet. So
Yeah.
being a bud.
Eric is a good friend of mine and the co-host of the unfortunately now temporarily defunct Timekeeper's Table Wrestling podcast.
Ah, yes.
So,
I'll pour one out
Eric,
for that one.
Shout out to you, buddy. I got him hooked with the cage match. You'll never guess how.
And also thank you to Sid Treefish. They said they loved every minute of our content. Very, very sweet. They're also
Not even I love every minute of our content.
Yeah, no. There's some stinkers in there.
Also, they're
I love maybe 4 minutes out of every episode, but that's just because that's by the time I'm done with editing.
I mean, at that point, it's like an Easter egg. It's like, ooh, when's the good part gonna start? And how long, and how many single-digit minutes will it be this time?
also they're Australian, and though Liz's accent is awful, they love it.
We're sorry.
Yeah,
We're so sorry,
so sorry.
all of Australia. At the Indulgery, who's a frequent tweeter now, said there needs to be a crossover between Extraordinary League and the Adventure Zone. Wow.
Oh, man.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
Holy shit.
Big dreams, dude. Big dreams.
I mean, write your local congressperson, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously.
And-
Write your local podcast.
Yeah.
Right, the Adventure Zone. Lastly, Rafael Medina was pedantic about the Star Fox barrel roll.
Because, of course.
No.
What did he say?
He actually tagged you on Twitter. Check your damn Twitter, Colin.
I think I'm still an egg.
Yes, you are.
Is that it for the thanks?
That is for the
Cool.
thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Wait. So we had. Did you guys read that email we got?
No.
Oh shit! I'm being a bad.
Kit,
Oh,
it's your email.
M. Lawrence.
Let's see. I sent over a review. This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table. And what? This isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table, and they're the surgeons. For Smash Fiction, I have to say I love the podcast.
Oh.
I especially appreciate it as I'm currently biking from PEI, Canada, Prince Edward Island. That's what that is. To San Diego for Comic-Con. Holy crap, that's a long ride.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Your
he's biking. He's starting off on an island, so that's going to be
Right?
pretty tough.
He's actually, depending on the route he takes, he's going to be hitting Miles's former home, the location of the Gameable Podcast, where Liz, Kit, and I live, and then San Diego. So that's, he's hitting all the highlights. He's just avoiding Tucson, apparently.
Yeah.
I mean,
Smart.
and more fucking power to it.
Your podcast really helped me pass the time and keep me engaged in all things comic book / popular fiction. Along with the review, if you wouldn't mind giving my blog a shout out, www.coasttocoastforcomics.com, it would be much appreciated as I am raising money for the Prince Edward Island Literacy Alliance, which is www.pei.literacy.ca. Here's hoping that the funds raised will develop future Smash Fiction listeners. Cheers, Matt Lawrence. P.S. You can also find Coast to Coast for Comics on Facebook if you wanted to follow along through social media. Well, let me say, I would be supporting an organization called Coast to Coast Comics, even if it wasn't a charity.
Yeah.
So,
right?
But, dude, that sounds pretty sweet. I'm sorry I didn't see your email sooner.
Matt, you're a fucking warrior.
Yeah, dude.
And sorry we didn't get to this earlier. I hope that you hear this at a time where you're still in need of the inspiration that we provide.
Or at the very least in need of, the listenership. And I hope that, we can at least take a look at that and, sort of see what the site is and what he's getting into. Because that definitely sounds like a very worthy cause.
Yeah. And next time I'm considering complaining about having to watch a bunch of, kids' movies, I'll just think of you biking across all of Canada, and then maybe I won't complain so much next time.
Colin, when have you ever complained about having to watch a bunch of kids' movies?
Yeah.
Man, someone like that should totally make pit stops in libraries, because then you could inspire children to read with, look at this person who loves comics so much they're riding their bike across not one but 2 countries.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Except when you go into the libraries, it's just going to be a bunch of homeless people.
There is that.
Well, I mean, if he's biking his way back up to Prince Edward Island, then presumably he'll be passing through your guys' neck of the woods. So,
Mhm.
maybe you can
hang out the window and give him a high five.
Yeah.
Say hi to the Pacific Northwest for me. I miss it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
if this person hears this in time, we can hook this high five up. Get in touch.
100%.
All right. So we have 2 new iTunes reviews that I would like to share.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So the first one is from Fall Runner. Ever wondered who would win in a fight? Then this delightfully nerdy podcast is for you. Even if you don't know who some of the characters are, parentheses, Kefka, not Kafka. Although, let me just say,
Oh man, Kafka versus Sephiroth.
Franz
Wow.
Kafka versus the Jewish conception of
Oh,
Sephiroth
Sephiroth. Oh man,
would
yeah.
be so good. Anyway,
Holy shit, that's
I
amazing.
have no
That is
idea
for
what
a-
that match is, but I want to make that
we're
happen.
gonna
now.
do it next April Fools. Watch this space.
That is for a smarter podcast than this one.
Hey,
I will
says
be on
you.
that show.
There you go. He continues, don't hesitate and strap in for a fun ride. The debates are spirited with surgical application of bullshitting and will surely pull you in first one and then in the opposite direction. However, don't compare your character to a god unless he is one. The monthly actual play episodes are the cherry on the top and quickly have become one of my favorites, right next to Total Party Kill and The Adventure Zone.
Aw.
Finally, like a Pixar or MCU movie, it's always good to stay to the end for the after the credits scene. And then he goes on to begin to quote the exchange that Colin and Kit had in the after credit scene of the Kefka versus Sephiroth episode.
What
So
is- I don't even-
Which one was
I don't
that
even
again?
remember.
it was basically where Colin was pointing out the fact that Kefka was immune to gravity damage, and
Oh.
then Kit was pointing out
Oh,
the fact that he
yeah.
wasn't immune to being stabbed. And,
Shish kebab.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. Our second one. There's actually 2 new ones from Canada. One is the one from that emailer that we just read,
Oh, nice.
who has identified himself on iTunes as Poop Face. So Presumably that's his Christian name. I don't know. And yes, he said, this isn't a mud hole. It's an operating table, and they're the surgeons. If you have ever thought of the intricacies of the who would win in a fight scenario, and you're also a pop culture nerd, then this podcast is for you. These fine folks do their research into every character that's thrown into their arena, and the result is highly entertaining. Definitely recommended to comic book fans.
Oh, yay.
Well, comic books are the hardest thing to research, so
thanks.
yeah. And then the other review that we had from Canada is from Parnman, and the title is It's a Smash Hit. This group of friends research and debate who would win in a no-holds-barred competition between two or more fictional champions. Their knowledge and humor combine to form an always entertaining show. Extraordinary League is an amazing live play RPG that they sprinkle in from time to time that never fails to put a smile on my face when I see it in the feed. Keep being awesome, gang.
Now, our fans need to keep being awesome because you guys are the best.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Smash Fiction. Next week, it's a four-way match taking place in the Hunger Games. Arya Stark versus Lyra Belacqua versus Wesley Crusher versus Hannah Montana?
We've gone too far. Oh, no. What have we done?
Smash Fiction is produced by Miles Schneiderman, with logo design by Colin Mulcairn.
Special thanks to Kevin MacLeod for our theme song, which is called Hitman. You can find his work at www.incompetech.com.
You can follow the Smash Fiction Podcast on Twitter at SmashFicPodcast and search for us on Facebook and Tumblr.
Subscribe on iTunes, and if you leave us a good review, we shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
If you have any suggestions, feedback, or other contributions, send them to us at smashfictionpodcast@gmail.com and help us continue the fight.
They brought a flying type. Sorry. I just messed that up. They brought a fighting type, and we too many words.
You're in the last paragraph, Colin.
I know.
Come on, take it home.
Strikes
All right,
again.
All right. They brought a fighting type, and we brought a flyer.
You brought what?
Really, Miles? Really? I got it that time.
I couldn't help myself.
They brought a flying type, and we brought a flyer.
Nope.
What did it like?
You said flying.
You said flying type.
Did I? Fuck.
Yep.
All right, I need to bold this word.